Good evening, and a very warm welcome to Literature Live Evenings. I'm Reena from Literature Live. Let me begin with our gratitude to the NCPA who have been associating with us in our literary endeavors for the past, well, let's say over a decade. Thank you so much, NCPA. And of course to the Vedant team that has brought this together today. This year is a very special year, a landmark year, as we celebrate 15 years of Literature Live. A friend of many present here, Anil Dharkar, our founder-director, created this platform to bring writers and readers together. Today, helmed by Amy Fernandez and Kwasar Thakur Padamsi, the Literature Live team continues the exciting journey of enriching sessions featuring interesting and thought-provoking writers. Over the past 15 years, we have brought to our city several opportunities to engage in literary conversations through Literature Live evenings such as these, the Anil Dharkar Literature Live Independence Lecture, which takes place every August, where we invite voices of India to talk about the India that inspires them. Literature Live 360 at campus, where we engage with young students, the undergrads, the grads, where we have creative writing, where we collaborate with colleges for their festivals and their literary arts events. The Little Festival for Children, we really spare no one. We start at a very young age, so age no bar. And of course, the Mumbai Lit Fest, which is held annually on these very hallowed premises at the NCPA. So save your date this year, 15th to November 2024. We will be here back with our festival. Moving on, our guest this evening, Janki Santoke, is a lecturer, author, management trainer, public speaker. A renowned Vedant scholar, Jankiji's interests include Sanskrit, health, literature, mythology, and psychology. Founder and managing trustee of Vedant Wisdom Trust, her logical and engaging sessions bridge the ancient world with today's world. This evening, Jankiji will be in conversation with feminist theologian Astrid Lobo Gajiwala. So what are we going to hear? What are we going to listen? What is the book all about? The Happiness Guarantee, which is a part of a trilogy, Part 1, Philosophy of Happiness, is the first of a trilogy on the challenges and pursuit of happiness, a guide for all of those of us chasing this elusive joy. Happiness, says the author, is not an entitlement. You have to seek it. The best thing about life is that to be happy, we can change something a little bit now. So sit back and listen as we invite our guest speaker, Janki Santoke, to talk about the philosophy of happiness. May I now invite the author. Thank you.
Thank you, Reena. Thank you so much. So, welcome to our discussion on the happiness guarantee. Can we have more lights on the audience?
Okay. Do we have some more house lights, please?
The mics? Okay.
There's somebody waving at you.
There's somebody waving at me? Okay. That's why I need lights. Anyone else waving, I'm waving back.
Here they cannot see.
Oh, you can't see me from here? Sit and talk?
Okay.
That is.
See you better from here.
Can we switch that off? I am making too much fuss to begin with, right? Okay, so all good? We are going to be doing about this book today, so I guess good idea to just do a little reading from it first, so we know how we are going. Okay, so this is where it begins. The preface. I'm going to read the first paragraph. Happiness is such a basic need that it is surprising we don't apply any serious thought to it. We don't study it. We don't train our children for it. We leave it to chance and circumstance that we will be happy and satisfied. Even after meeting with sorrow and pain, we rarely pause to reflect. While we are experts in air crash investigations, we never investigate human crashes. We review financial crisis, but we do no research post a divorce about what went wrong. After an acrimonious argument, how many of us pause to consider what just happened? We hardly ever get off the roller coaster called life to reflect. Even after countries falter or fail, no one clamors for an investigation, much less offer a solution. The roller coaster goes on, our attention riveted to the next dramatic event. A little surface emotion, and then the past is gone in a flash. Isn't this a little irresponsible of us? Forgive the question, but are we humans mad? How is it that we don't think about it? Is it an option for us to be happy? Is this not a basic human right? How can we live our lives if we are not happy? If anything else we don't have, it's fine, we'll manage. How can we live without happiness? And that one thing is the one thing nobody's thinking about. So, there's some things we need to understand about it. Firstly, it's my responsibility. I can't delegate this to someone else. And even if I choose to delegate it to someone else, there's an odd thing about us. We usually give it to somebody who's incapable of shouldering that responsibility. What is this? Lunacy or what? Would we do that with our documents? Would we do that with our cash? When I came on stage, I brought a purse with me. Now, who amongst all the people here will I choose to give my purse to? Am I not going to be at least somewhat sensible about it? But if it comes to my happiness, any random stranger I will give it to. That right? That right for you to be able to disturb my sleep? How do you get that right? Have I made any assessment on whether it's worthy of that? So I got to take responsibility. It is not something I am born with, but it is definitely something that I can't use the word acquire, but it is my birthright. So how do I go about this? How do I figure all this stuff out? I need to understand why I'm happy and why I'm not happy. Vedanta has studied this for centuries, and there's a bottom line to this. Do you know why you're happy? It doesn't matter what anyone thinks of as happiness. Everybody thinks of, something or the other. If I had the love of my life, if I had lots of money, if I had my health back, if I was beautiful, we all have our reasons. But why am I happy or why am I not happy? It's very simple. I am not happy because a desire is interrupted. It is that simple. So when will I be happy? Desire is fulfilled. That's what it seems to us, but that's not the answer. as soon as I fulfill a desire, what happens? Another one comes up. All are very smart. Why did you call me? I don't know.
Because you're more smart than us.
Okay. So, all agitation is because of desire. Now, what is happiness because of? It's because of absence of desire. Even when you claim that fulfillment of desire is happiness, please notice what happens. I want a mango, desire for mango. I eat the mango. What has happened? I say my desire is fulfilled, but what does that actually mean? I had the desire, I ate the mango, and at the moment I do not have a desire for mango. So even when I claim it is out of fulfillment, it is actually out of absence. But it doesn't last because it comes right back. But the fact remains, all agitation comes from desire. And the only way to rid ourselves of agitation is to rid ourselves of desire. Now this is theoretically fantastic. You can't beat it. Okay? You can try. I tried for years because I didn't like this answer. So I tried for years. There must be a better way. No, I can't find it. If you can find it, please let me know. You can't theoretically beat this answer. But then what practically? What about practically? What am I supposed to do? How can I not have a desire? Is that even a possibility? It is true I have a desire. So now I'm doomed forever to be unhappy. Sounds weird, right? Okay, so I have to get rid of my desires. How? One thing that you can easily try is, okay, I want a mango, but I'm not going to have that mango. I'm going to practice abstinence. I'm going to stay away from it. And then I don't have a desire. If you stay away from an object, does it mean you don't have a desire for it? You can keep your body away from it. How do you keep your mind away from it? Abstinence cannot be an answer. Some people think, no, don't do all this abstinence. There are some thinkers who've said, you have a desire, go fulfill it. And I think you already know what happens when you try that stunt. So you can't abstain from it, you can't fulfill it. This looks like a madman's game. No? It's very frustrating. But there is an answer, don't worry. And this is the answer. How do you get rid of a desire? There's only one way. And that is by having a higher desire. You can't get rid of a desire, but you can take up desires. You have no mechanism in you to get rid of desires. But you do have a mechanism to take up desires. And that we've experienced, right? We can take up any number of desires. So when we're taking up, if we take up higher desires, what happens is the interest in the lower wanes away. Like when you get interested in good literature, will you go back to read Mills and Boons? That won't happen, right? So the moment you take higher desire, the lower one wanes away. It disappears. When you get teenage desires, childhood desires disappear. When you get desires of adulthood, teenage desires disappear. So what we can do is take up higher desires. Now how do you do that? Am I giving away too much? You will say, why should I read the book now? So how do I then take up higher desires? First you have to find something which inspires you. When you go to work, why do you go to work? You could go to work because of the salary you're going to get. Obviously you wouldn't go to work if you weren't getting a salary. But can I change that a little bit? Can I be more concerned about doing something rather than getting something? Can I make this change in my attitude? And if I make this change in my attitude, you know what the friends say, après vous, after you. It's a simple thing. If I can make that change in whatever way I can, to the extent I make that change, I will be a happy person. Another way I can try is just simple gratitude. To be aware of what I'm getting. Have you ever realized that whatever we complain about tells us what we are getting? For instance, if I complain, my husband doesn't take me to a movie or doesn't take me out to dinner. What does the sentence mean? It means he's definitely not an alcoholic, right? Because if he was, I would not be complaining about this. He definitely is making enough money. Because if he wasn't, I wouldn't be complaining about this. Every time I complain, if I say there's too much traffic on the roads, what does it mean? I have a vehicle to travel in. If I complain, I got too many clothes to fold and put in the cupboard. Plenty of clothes, right? Every time I complain, I show what I really have. So why don't I put it the other way and say, oh great, so many clothes. Why not I turn it? Instead of saying, so many clothes to put in the cupboard, why not say, oh great, I have so many clothes. So if I can make that change. Now these are just tiny practical tips, but the bottom line is not any of this stuff. The bottom line of it is, how much can I expand my mind to feel one with everybody? How much can I do that? At the lowest level, I understand myself to be only this physical body. As I grow, I include my family in my identity. As I grow even further, I'll include my community. Like over here, our community would be all those, let's say, interested in literature. So there's some people working for that cause. So I expand to include my community, maybe my nation, maybe humanity, maybe all living creatures. But the more I can expand this, the more true. But what is the result of this expansion?
I'll be happy.
That's correct. But why? Desire. Yes, so the desire level comes down. Remember, as you take higher desires, the lower comes down. And that's how you get to eradication of desires. If you can achieve universal oneness, then you are what is known as an enlightened being. A Buddha, Mahavira, Rama, Krishna, Guru Nanak, Christ, Muhammad, whoever you have been inspired by as an enlightened being, this is what they have done. That's all. And that's all we have to do. Is that simple?
But they never spoke. We humans speak. They always communicate from the other side. Right?
They communicate from the other side doesn't sound like a good thing.
The human beings get their knowledge, and then that human beings pass that knowledge in the world. Whatever names you took of the
Yeah, so
Christ, Krishna, every year. So in the country of India, the literature and that talks.
yeah, so they spoke, that's why we have that literature.
The knowledge.
They have to speak, otherwise how will we have any literature? So, you can't leave it there though, because now I think you all will all be inspired by this idea and say, yes, we have to practice universal affection. So it is likely that somebody may step out from here and the first person they meet, they give him a tight hug and they say, "Oh, I love you so much." Please don't, that person will have a heart failure. So it is not about what you're expressing, it is the person you are. Any expression should come from reason, from judgment, from discernment, from discrimination. Many spiritual people fail at the second point. No doubt we work for universal oneness, but when it comes to any action, I'm going to do something, that action must come from our discrimination. Because we are free to function from our emotions. But then consequences come to us. And then we can cry and say, "Why is God doing this to me?" God is not doing anything to anyone. We take stupid actions, we get consequences of those actions. It is that simple. Vedanta is the simplest subject on the surface of this earth. Isn't it? No way. So quite simple, right? Happiness is important. We have to take responsibility for it. Why are we not happy? All agitations come from desire. Solution: eradicate desire. Method of eradication of desire? Come on now. Higher desires. What does that mean? It means we did some practical things, but in theory, like what were the two practical examples we took? Which were? Yes, what was the first one? That was the second one. First one? How? Just a couple of practical examples. See, I am a teacher by profession. I am not an author by profession. तो मेरे लिए तो सब classroom ही होता है. Huh? Very good. Right? Aprez-vous, remember? And gratitude. These are just a couple of practical things. But in theory, what it is you expand your mind to oneness with as much as you can. And to the extent you do that, the lower desires will drop off. However, that's not all. The second thing we need to do is you expanded your mind. And the second thing?
Use your discrimination.
Very good. But when you perform an action, that has to come through discrimination. That's it. It is so simple. Okay, so I'm done for today. Now we have to move on to whatever. Clear, no? All this is so far so good, right? Nothing is sounding very complicated. You all are so quiet, I don't know what to make of it. Is that a yes or a no? Okay. You're happy? Okay. I hope you have long-term pleasure. Yeah? I stopped on time, no?
At this point, let's invite Astrid Lobo Gajiwala to take this conversation forward. Maybe invite Astrid, please. Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. And I'm really happy to be here. Janki and I have conversed on the telephone, so it's nice to be here face to face. I also have a small connection with her. I've visited the Vedanta Academy many times in Malavali and had the privilege of meeting and listening to Swami Parthasati, very charismatic personality. And one of the things that struck me when I was at the academy was the background of some of the disciples. So I met somebody who was formerly a chef in the Taj. Mm-hmm. I met somebody else who was a MD gold medalist. So taking off from there, I thought, Janki, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you entered into this journey of Vedanta. What did you leave behind? What was your discernment process? And what was the response of your family? Were they supportive? Were they apprehensive? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
What was the discernment? Excuse me. None whatsoever. I had a lot of questions, and my mother got fed up with me, and she said, "You go ask whoever knows." So I said, we had a card from Swamiji when the Gita lectures were taking place, and the card was lying on the coffee table in front of me. I said, "This guy claims to know, no? I'll ask him." So I'm sitting there at the coffee table, near, on the sofa, coffee table in front, card there. Next to me is a telephone. We used to have landlines then. I picked up the phone. I said, "The guy claims to know, I'll ask him." And I said, "May I speak to Swami Parthasarthi?" And the voice at the other end said, "Speaking." I said, "What?" "What do you mean speaking?" Now I have nothing further to say because on a whim I've picked up the phone. I have like my mom says, "Go ask anyone who knows." I'll ask someone who claims to know. And he says, "Speaking." And I was just completely, I didn't know what to say. So I said, "I wanted to meet you." Because now what do I say? He said, "Okay, tomorrow 9:30. I said, "What? Who picks up the phone? Who gives you a time like this?" These are all celebrities. They don't talk to you. You have to go through 5 people. And okay. Then he asked me one question. "Do you want to join the academy?" I said, "No, I don't want to join any academy. I just have a few questions." He said, "Okay, tomorrow 9:30. So I went there. And then I just spoke to him. And then he told me that there was an academy and stuff. And I thought, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Would you like to visit it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." He seemed like a very casual and nice person, so why not? So I fixed up with him to go to the academy. He came and picked me up. And then we drove down. I stayed there a couple of days. And then Monday morning he dropped me back home. I think went Saturday, came back Monday morning. And my mom said, "So how was it?" She saw us as these, what should I say, reckless teenagers. All they are interested in is, there's nothing Indian about them. They're too westernized. She had all these complaints about me. School, college is all English speaking, and there was an HR, and I don't need to tell you what HR was. And so how was it, she said. I said, it seemed quite okay. I think I'll join. So she just ignored me. Kids come up with all this nonsense. Then I'd already fixed with Swamiji to pick me up Wednesday morning. So Tuesday I started packing my bags. And then everybody woke up to the fact that I'm leaving for 3-year full-time residential program at Vedanta Academy with no breaks, no weekends, no vacations, at an ashram. The whole, India, the whole extended family and friends and everybody landed up at our door Tuesday evening. Because shok sabha, ye kya ho gaya. But I was 21, I'd just given my graduation exams. I didn't know what they were carrying on about. Honestly, I didn't know. In retrospect, I feel they may have had a point, I don't know this gentleman, I've gone with him somewhere, and I've changed my whole life course based on this thing. In retrospect, okay, I'm more sympathetic to their views, but at that time I was like, what are you people talking about? I just continued my packing. Wednesday morning, Swamiji picked me up, and then I went and I stayed at the academy. Stayed there about 8-9 years. So I can't claim that I had any form of discernment going on here.
So it was just a jump into the pool.
Yeah, at that time it just seemed natural and normal, and I don't know what the fuss was about.
So, coming to your book, okay, you've called it The Happiness Guarantee, the Philosophy of Happiness. And, I found the title very intriguing. It was a kind of a combination of a self-help book and very heavyweight philosophy, So I just wanted to know, was that a deliberate choice? That's one. The other thing is, I don't know how many of you have seen the book. You know, it's a very interesting cover. The visual has a young woman, girl maybe, flying a kite. And the sky has, a few clouds and a lot of butterflies. So I was wondering, did you choose that image for any particular reason? Or, I mean, did it have some sort of message? Or how did you go about your cover and your title?
I went about it as I go about all things. Whatever I don't know, I catch hold of somebody and say, I don't know this, please handle this, and they handle it.
Okay. It was as simple as that.
Yep. If you want a cover for your book, please speak to Kavita. She seems to have done a great job. Everybody has noticed the cover. I don't know if anyone notices the insides, but the cover has received accolades.
So what made you write the book? And was it an easy process? Did it just flow? Or did you struggle over it when you were writing it? I know that you've traveled very widely, teaching Vedant. And so was it, did you have a particular audience in mind, a Western audience, an Indian audience, or does it really make no difference? It's a universal audience. So can you tell us a little bit about the whole writing process of the book?
Writing it was very easy. And I don't know how many, any authors here? You people must be writing too, right? So, so writing a book is always easy. The problem starts when you start reading it. So you write it and you're like, oh great, I wrote a book. Then you start reading it because now somebody else is going to read it and you have to make it so that makes sense to somebody else. So then you start editing and that's painful. I edited like 3,000 times or something.
This is not your first book?
No, this isn't.
Yeah. So
And not only I edited 3,000 times, I have a team, some of whom is here, Momita, Deepak, who also edit. And we all edit it about 1 billion times over. And hopefully now it is easy reading for whoever reads it. Please let me know if we achieved easy reading. Sorry, what were you saying? I needed to say that because it will sound like I alone did this. No, it's a teamwork.
No, that's fine. It's just that, since we are talking, as you said, there are people here who are writers, and it's interesting to know how different writers approach, their work in terms of writing discipline or, how you go about it. So in your case, you seem to say that it just flowed.
Yeah, writing is easy work. It's the rest that's a problem.
I think there are a lot of writers who might envy you.
No, what I do, which I learned from my father, and he learned that from Somerset Mom, he used to tell me, not because I wasn't writing then, but he generally told me because we were the bunch of indisciplined kids, he kept repeating all my life that Somerset Mom, who we both loved, made for easy reading because he was at his desk every morning at 5 a.m., inspiration or not. So I've heard that 1 million times and I follow it.
Yeah, okay. So that's the writer's discipline.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming to your book, I had a few questions about the pursuit of happiness, okay? So right through your book, you emphasize the fact that happiness does not come from outside, not from acquisitions, not from achievements, okay? And you also speak of desire being the number one enemy, right? But then on page 7 of your book, you pose a very provocative question. You say, doesn't progress come with aspiration? Okay, so this seems almost contradictory. And, you did mention earlier when you were talking about having a higher goal, so a higher desire. So I was just thinking, like, for instance, a lot of activists, okay, they have a desire. They have a desire for a just world. They have a desire for peace, so it's a desire which I would say almost consumes them. And because that happens, they're willing to pay the price for whatever it is they want. So in the context of that, I was wondering if maybe you could help us to understand the question that you yourself put, doesn't progress come with aspiration?
Yeah, if you don't have a desire, if you're all like duh about it, you're not going to ever do anything, right? So desire is like the wind in your sails. Without the wind, your ship ain't moving. But with only the wind, you're going to crash. You have to steer this. And that's where the intellect comes in. If you don't steer it towards a positive goal, a higher goal. By higher, what it means, higher is a comparative term. So it's higher than where you are. This is where a lot of us good people fail. Like everybody in this audience, I'm sure, has higher desires. But they're not. They're higher compared to other people. That's why there's an educated group of people, because they're higher than the average society. But higher in Vedanta is not like that. It's higher than where I am currently. So that I'm always pushing that bar up a bit. Otherwise, we're stagnating in our goodness. We are where we are. So that's also what happens to activists. They get carried away. They are where they are. They can't perceive a higher thing. Sometimes, not everybody, of course. And that's where the role of the intellect comes in. You've got to direct things. The mind will take off. Even in good things, the mind takes off. The intellect has to direct at all times.
So, yeah, so I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I'm also just thinking, like, how many people really have control of their lives? You know, I am myself a feminist theologian, and I have seen in my church, it's a very patriarchal system, and I think a lot of religions suffer from this. You know, I mean, we just got the vote in apex bodies just last year, and we still have only male priests. So, you know, this is something which is common, I think, across many religions. And also, forget religions, even in society, you know, women are always struggling with the whole patriarchal system. So my question is, how can they find happiness when the system doesn't change? You know, these are things which they cannot control. What do they do?
How do I put this? I'm not a great believer in it. Maybe because my life experiences have been different. Never in my life have I experienced that kind of thing. And as far as I can see, women who wanted to go out there and do stuff went out there and did it. Nobody has an easy deal. Nobody at all. Not men, not women. The big question always is, who is determined to get the job done? Whoever's determined to get the job done gets the job done. One lady, this is a controversial thought I have, so nobody likes it. Many women don't like it. There was a very cute lady in my class, elderly lady. She was, 65, 70. That time I thought that was elderly. I'm almost there myself now. But that time she got up and she said, not got up, she raised her hand. She said, no, but how is that so? I was 17 years old. I wanted to study. And my father said, no, you have to get married. And he married me. I mean, very nice boy and everything, but I couldn't study. And then I had children and, joint family and all these long stories. And you feel, like, look at this young girl, she wants to study, she's been married off, and you feel quite sympathetic about it. Until you remember Lakshmi Bai. You remember Lakshmi Bai in Subhash Chandra Bose's army? She was of an older generation. She walked out, right? She went out and joined an army. Those who want to do, those who don't want to, find reasons why it can't be done. So I'm not particularly sympathetic, though I do appreciate that other people may have had different experiences. But, I mean, not all rich people began with a silver— isn't it? So, I mean, We begin with disadvantages. Christopher Reeve. You remember Christopher Reeve? Yeah, Superman. And then the fate, that accident. And then paralyzed from neck downwards. And yet lived a productive life after that. He worked after that. He even acted in a film. He started this whole institution for the paraplegic, for research and whatnot. He can say, right, I have so many disadvantages. We all have them. Yeah, it's okay. Get up and fight it, whatever it is. Don't sit down and say, oh, I'm being treated like this because I am this or I am that. I don't know if that's very unsympathetic of me.
I just think the answer is a little different if you come maybe from a position of privilege and if you come from a position of oppression. So for instance, if you speak of Dalit women, if you speak of people who are really poor, the system is really against them. And it's very tough, I find. So I was curious to know how, I'm sure Vedanta would have meaning there, but it would be interesting to know how it could be applied in that kind of situation.
In Vedanta, there was no looking down on women in the first place because the Upanishad, as you probably know, has been told, she has questioned her husband. Okay, he's leaving and she questions him. So she's part of that conversation. She's the student of the Upanishad. And then they say that Upanishads can't be taught to women. Oh, go jump. I mean, the Upanishad reports this. So it's not part of Vedanta at all. Now, it is human nature that if I can find a way to sort of exert my ego and my power over you, I'm going to do it. This is just human nature. So people who found that others didn't know some facts, just sort of, but that was all misrepresentation, So in the Christian church itself, I mean, who is given maybe greater emphasis than Christ is a lady. Why are we forgetting this? Who's saying that it is in some way less? But obviously, now if I have a chance to sort of show off that I'm somehow better than you, I'm going to take that chance, right? I mean, every human being does that. So men, when you are acting stupid in front of them, did it. You should have acted smarter and knocked them over the base. I mean, in some cases, of course. I mean, I'm not against men, but it is human nature to take advantage of a situation.
That's true, but I also think that if you're enlightened, then you have a responsibility to give a right when you see it is due.
That, of course, I agree. That is across the board for everything. If we see anyone being oppressed because they are weaker, then we have to stand up for them.
True. So I just wanted to move away a little bit into something before we end, because I think we're almost reaching the end of our time, is... the other day when we were chatting, you made a very interesting statement. You said, if the world deserves Vedanta, it will come. I really like that. It was a very nice statement. And now I'd like to put that in the context of our current situation in India, where we seem to feel that, religious and political divides are becoming more pronounced. Or if you look at the global scenario where there is so much of war and, peace seems like an impossible dream, So in that context, against that backdrop, okay, how would you, what would be the kind of answer or, shall I say, guidance that Vedanta would be able to give the world? Like, how do we make Vedanta come into this world?
Bad question to ask me. I hope y'all are ready for a big lecture now. As a human being, it is our primary duty to develop our intellect. And we humans understand this, and we have tried to make education almost universal. As far as we can do it, we are doing it. But we're so on the wrong track. It's just not funny. So this is like a bad thing to ask me, because now you're getting everybody into trouble. Especially a university education, it's so bad. it is all designed for one purpose and one purpose alone, which is to make money. There is no explanation about what to do with the money having earned it. There is no explanation about how to handle relationships, how to deal with your own health, how to live a balanced life, how to be a cultured human being. None of this. All we want to know is, what is my package at the end of this education? That's the only question. This is absurd. Saraswati cannot be subservient to Lakshmi. Makes no sense. Okay, chalo, you want to teach them how to get ready for a career. Okay, very good. Do you know that 10 years later, we don't know whether this career will exist or not? What are you preparing them for? Okay, chalo, you want to make them for a career. I don't know how many of you all have tried to hire somebody in recent times. Across the board, in every industry, people are finding the youngsters not employable. So which part of this education is working? It is not achieving the ends that it claims to, which it is its purported ends, and obviously it's not doing anything to make you a human being. So what's the point of this? A madhouse. In India, many centuries earlier, we had one of the best education systems. And it's a great dream to bring that back. That was based in Vedanta, where you learned how to use your intellect, where you learned how to deal with people, how to work with people, how to achieve spectacular success because you did it all properly. How to be happy. You know, at that time in India, we were the richest country, and we were the richest country for the longest period of time. Nobody else has broken our record. After all the loot of the British Empire and everybody else, at the point of independence, you know, rupee to dollar? 1 rupee to $1. At the point of independence, after all the loot, we were the richest country. But we were not just the richest country. We were the most technologically advanced. We had the best science, the best literature, the best philosophy, the best culture, architecture, metallurgy, like all sorts of things we had. And we were the most loving, the most happy. We could live in joint families of 50 people. Today, 2 people cannot live with one another. So, we were most loving, we were the most friendly, the most welcoming. There was an education system that made our country like that. We see vestiges of this even now. Little bits here and there. Why do we not have that education system instead of all this nonsense? That doesn't mean don't teach IT, please, don't misunderstand it like that. Of course, we have to teach cutting edge, whatever it is. But we have to get that base of education back again. So for that, we are trying to set up the world's first Vedanta university. And I hope you're all going to help do it, because we are all small people. We don't have any big names backing us. But thank you.
Yeah, that's really good to know that. And I believe you also have online classes, which you, yes?
Yes. So how do we start making the university? All of us have to first study Vedanta. Because what's the use of saying everybody should study it? Let me start with me. If I make myself an honest person, I can be assured of one less scoundrel in this world. So why don't I start from here? So why don't we all get together, study it, and as we study it, the university will come. So that's why we have online classes. They've been going on for 35 years. In fact, this whole institution runs because of the people who study. You'll be amazed to know. You can ask them because they're here. They have their full-time careers. Plus, they do volunteer work on a daily basis. Plus, they have their married lives and whatever else they're doing, their hobbies, married life. See, our Bharat over there, he has a very strong hobby. If you look at him, you'll know what his hobby is. So stand up, Bharat. Can you? Can you guess what this gentleman loves to do? Yes, he's a weightlifter and he lifts, I don't know, some ridiculous amounts of weight. I can't even say those numbers. So each one has his family or his hobbies and he, I don't know how many hours on a daily basis he puts into working on Vedanta. And that is with studies and his volunteer work and his life, and he's just one example, like everybody else. You can go speak to them. Deepak, what all you do? He plays cricket, he runs a business, he's got a family, I don't know what, I myself don't always keep track of the multiplicity of things these people do. Where is all this coming from? Where's this time coming from? There's only 24 hours in the day, right? So when we learn Vedanta, we become productive, we become efficient, we become happy, we start achieving like crazily. So let's do this. We have online classes. Let's all study it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And on that hopeful note, I will now throw this session open to the audience for a brief question and answers. I request you to just be please brief with your questions. You could make comments, I guess. Yes, please.
Hi, thank you so much for this lovely talk. My question is, you said that desire can be expanded and we have higher desires which reduce the lower desire. So, but is it possible to get rid of desire completely?
Yes, that's what an enlightened person is. A Buddha, Rama, Krishna, Muhammad, Christ, all of these are those who've done that. However, this is the highest human achievement. So you're not going to find people doing it dime a dozen. These are once in a generation you find people of this stature. But we can, do ourselves a lot of good by walking on that path. As we walk on it, as much as we achieve, to that extent we'll have this fabulous life. Even if we don't reach the end, it will just get better. Suppose suppose I'm at 10% and I make myself 20%. To my perception, I've doubled everything. My happiness, my love, to my perception, because from 10 it went to 20.
No, thank you for that. But in our lifetime, if we are not a Muhammad or a Christ or somebody, then coming to that stage where desire ends is not mostly possible. Is that we are saying that?
Not really. We can't really comment, but we can give the principle involved.
I understand.
Whether you will achieve it or not is dependent on two things, like any achievement. Where you currently are and how much effort you're willing to put. If you're at 99% and you're not putting in effort, you're not going to get it.
And Ishwar Kripa, I suppose, ultimately.
Sorry, I just have to stop you because I just need to know there are other people who would like to ask questions. Sorry. Maybe you can continue this conversation later.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. I hope you remember me.
Yes.
Yeah. So, question to Gajiwala, ma'am. So, you said there are society or systems which somewhat prevent people from coming up and face those challenges. But when we see history, whether in India or at universal level, all the best work or the best out of human being have come from people who have been into most difficult challenges in their lives. See, in cricket, we see Yashasvi Jaiswal. So he had no resources to play cricket, and he has worked with a chai wala or something. And we have seen people like him all across the society. So is there any limit to human potential to achieve anything he wants or he or she wants. Thank you.
So you want me to answer that? Yeah. But you're the expert. He's the expert on Vedanta. But if you were to ask me what I have to say, I just feel that, the examples you gave, these are the exceptions to the rule, okay? You don't find that when we're talking about India's population, which is, we're talking about millions of people, and there are a lot of people who are unable to get out of that system, the system around them, okay? Because they just don't have the means to do it. So yes, there are exceptional people who manage to overcome that and, maybe even help others in their community to overcome it, which is great. But I still think we are a long way from, beating the system.
Yes, and if we do manage to educate people on Vedanta, you'll have more people beating the system.
Yes, I agree.
Ma'am, you speak about the happiness range. Do tell us a little about that.
Happiness is not one fixed point. So we sort of see it differently, right? There are times when you feel you're more happy or you're less happy or you're somewhat happy. If I give you a particular, a dish, you're somewhat happy with it, you love it, you hate it. All these different stories go on. So where is this coming from? If happiness is one thing, why do we experience a range? Why do we experience different things? Some call it bliss, some call it satisfaction, some call it pleasure, like fulfillment, so many things, right? And if you're all into English literature, you'd be aghast that how can you reduce everything to happiness? It doesn't make sense because we experience it differently. So what Vedanta tells us is the difference that they're all the same, firstly. The difference that we experience is because of the contrast to the previous state. So depending on what your previous state was, you will experience happiness differently. Is that what you were asking?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
It was a joy listening to both of you and you. I'd like to ask about the difference between the state of happiness and the state of peace. Are they intertwined or are they two separate entities?
They're exactly the same. Every word for happiness is used synonymously in Vedanta. So take an example, then this becomes clearer to understand. My hand. What am I feeling about it currently? Nothing, right? Anybody's feeling anything about your hand? Nothing. You're okay with it. Now, suppose I put this hand in a tight vice. Okay? Put it into something really tight. What will happen? I'm uncomfortable. And then for some reason, like sometimes someone shakes your hand and you're like waiting for them to leave your hand, right? Yeah. Like that. True. So then they leave your hand. What do you experience? You experience what you call relief. Now, think about this situation. Your hand is exactly the same thing as it was prior to that. And yet now this you are calling relief because of its comparison to the previous condition.
True.
Right? So now suppose you're very, very agitated about something else and that goes. Okay, let's say you're very stressed because somebody's in hospital. A boy is going about his normal life with his normal stresses. Then he hears his father's in hospital. He rushes there. He starts taking care of everything. He lives in all this tension and stress of father being unwell. And then luckily father becomes well. He comes back home. Everything comes back to normal. He says, oh, I don't have any stress anymore. But actually he's in exactly the same position as he was before this rigmarole started. True. But now he calls that pleasure because of a comparison to a previous state.
Thank you, that was helpful.
I agree with the idea of thinking of something beyond your limited happiness to something higher. But I also feel there's one more thing we can add to it by saying that when you genuinely live in the present, you have no time for desires. Because I found that works with me. I do have a higher purpose in life, but I don't think of it all the time. I live in the present and work towards that in my, just the way I live. So would you add that to it, like you live in the present?
Living in the present and being carried away with desires are contradictory terms. They are mutually exclusive. They can't exist together.
I see.
So many people say, okay, you must stay in the present, but if you're full of desires, how are you going to do that? Your mind will go to a future acquisition or enjoyment or something.
Like right now, I'm not thinking of anything else but this.
So then you'll be peaceful. But the moment, if I tell you, would you like to have a nice ice cream? And your mind goes to ice cream, then I've agitated you unnecessarily.
We have a certain amount of control of our mind.
Of course. Of course.
There's a question there.
Like, we are humans made of different emotion. Is it possible to be happy every time, 24/7, 365 days? Is it possible?
No. It is not that we are recommending 360. A dead person has a straight line, right? That's not what it is. It is that you have to have an inner core of equanimity regardless of what is going on. You may be unhappy or agitated, but that inner core of equanimity need not go away. Okay, so it's not like you hear somebody has passed away and then you say, hey, great fun, let's go to the cremation. It's not like that. You feel the sorrow, you feel the sadness, but there is a balance within you that is not affected.
Thank you very much, Jankiji and Astrid, for a very thought-provoking evening. Jankiji will be signing books outside if any of you are interested. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.